In 1892, Andrew Carnegie had placed a man by the name of Henry Clay Frick in charge of his steel operations in Homestead, Pennsylvania. Frick was in charge of the negotiations with the Amalgamated Association of Iron and Steel Workers, as the existing collective bargain agreement was set to expire in June of that year. While Carnegie claimed publicly to be in support of labor unions, he knew Frick's viewpoint when he hired him, as Frick had written to Carnegie in a letter, quote, "The mills have never been able to turn out the product they should, owing to being held back by the amalgamated men." The two sides could not reach agreement, and arguably this was the plan by Frick, as he had clearly prepared for a lockout. Starting in January, a barbed wire fence was built around the entire facility. Sniper towers with searchlights had been constructed, and a high-power water cannon was set at each entrance. Frick also made sure to stockpile a large amount of excess inventory. When the strike began, the strikers organized to prevent shipments from leaving the plant, and to assure strikebreakers could not be brought in to replace them. In addition to picket lines and blocking trains, they also had rowboats to stop ferries from being loaded at the plant. Strangers in town were confronted, and if they were reporters, they were given special badges and allowed to travel without confrontation, but reportedly only if they wrote stories supporting the strikers. Frick contracted with the Pinkerton Detective Agency to provide security and attempt to break the strike. 300 agents armed with Winchester rifles assembled 5 miles downstream to be brought to the plant. The striking workers got word in the middle of the night. They sent rowboats that fired warning shots and blew the plant whistle at 2:30 in the morning on July 6th, bringing thousands of men, women, and children to the plant to stop the Pinkerton group from being able to land their boats. As the Pinkerton agents attempted to disembark, shots were fired, although it's disputed who fired first. One of the boatmen bringing the Pinkerton said, quote, "The armed Pinkerton men commenced to climb up the banks. Then the workmen opened fire on the detectives. The men shot first, and not until 3 of the Pinkerton men had fallen did they respond to the fire. I'm willing to take an oath that the workmen fired first, and that the Pinkerton men did not shoot until some of their number had been wounded." However, reporters at the scene from the New York Times reported that Pinkertons fired first. Regardless, a battle ensued, with Homestead strikers even using the 20-pound brass cannon to fire on the ships bringing the Pinkerton agents. Around 5 p.m., the Pinkerton agents waved a white flag of surrender and were marched through town to be held at the Opera House, which served as a temporary jail before eventually being sent to Pittsburgh and released on July 7th. The head of the Pinkerton Detective Agency, a man by the name of William Pinkerton, would later testify to Congress that 2 Pinkerton agents were killed and a third committed suicide, but others claim the number was 7 killed and 11 wounded. On July 12th, the Pennsylvania State Militia arrived, led by General Major George R. Snowden. Snowden made it clear to the strike organizers they were supporting the steel mill owners, as the strikers were in violation of the law in his view, and said to them, quote, "I want you to distinctly understand that I am the master of this situation." History is awkward.